Thanks for joining us this afternoon. We are going to have a lot of fun. I think we've had a good time preparing this webinar for your enjoyment and also some learning of AI and automation here. I just want to take a minute to introduce who we are. And I am Nicole. I am the marketer here at Aldrich Web Solutions. I won't make any quips or jokes about me because my cohort, Bill Rosato, is the client's care specialist here, and we always make some sort of joke about our hair and how I wish I had hair like his or vice versa. So if you see us in person in the coming year, you can always crack a joke about our hair. And also, fun fact, not that he's not our awesome sales specialist here, but he used to sell crickets on a mass scale in distribution, actual crickets, which is funny because when I was talking to James, who is our third panelist here from Web Presented, he said, cricket? What do you mean cricket? Not cricket the game, as you will hear in just a minute on James' accent. It will make more sense when he does his introduction here. But it was really nice to just kind of have a degree of separation from cricket games and cricket distribution of cricket animals. But James has been with Web Presented for 15 years, and we are cross BUs with our company called Cordance, and we're just excited to welcome to customers that are here and also prospects that are here that haven't heard of either one of us. We feel like we have worked really well together. We have products that work really well together, and we thought this would be a great way for us to kind of introduce what we do. For the next hour or so, if you have any questions that pop up, please use the Q&A or the chat, and we will definitely get to those. Even if it seems like a silly question or something you're not sure of, we will definitely get to it. If it is something that's a little too in the weeds, we may say, hey, let's chat afterwards if you need something that's really techie or has to do with your ERP or those types of things. But again, always great to ask. At least we'll know what your questions are, and we'll go from there. So guys, anything wanted to add?
No,
Well, I guess I can address the whole hair situation, Nicole, because everybody would like hair like me, just to be clear.
It is easier maintenance. I mean,
Yes.
And good luck, right? All right.
Good luck.
It's like when you rub
yeah, I understood what you were saying. Yes, I got you.
In the quips of what is it, Gen Alpha, they call it the TLDR. So the next slide here is what you're going to know by the end of the next 30, 45 minutes. The TLDR, instead of staying the whole time, this is what we're going to kind of cover here. Do you have the slides up, Bill?
Yes. Do you see it or no?
I don't. James, do you see them?
Yeah, what to expect. Yeah,
Perfect. Okay, well, I can't see them, so I'm just going to fly blind. Totally fine.
Just take your glasses off. You'll be better.
I mean, maybe. Okay, so what are you going to learn today? We're going to do more with less. And as you'll see, there's challenges that you know uniquely as a business owner that are coming up that you're constantly being asked to do more with less time, less money, and less resources, less staffing. We do honestly believe that automation and AI can help with that. And by the end, I would like you to know what automation looks like from end to end for distributors, and whether this is your first, like dipping your toe into the water to see what this could feel like for your business or where it could help, or you're a seasoned pro and you have kind of step one and step two, and you're really looking at 2025 and maybe all the way through 2028 or 2029, what that automation can serve as you're coming over some challenges, what that would look like for you in your business, and how some tools can help do that. So when we talk about challenges here, there are three kind of overarching things we decided that are critical, but also things that you've known about. So this graph here shows the labor shortages, and I'm just going to read this quote from the NAM, if you're a member of NAM. Over the next decade, so not 3 or 4 years, but 10, 4 million manufacturing jobs are going to be needed, and 2 million are expected to be unfulfilled. So if we're talking about half of the needed jobs, we're not talking about jobs that are not needed or some additional things that you would like to do in your business, but jobs that are needed, we're going to have to come up with some sort of solution that does not include hiring more people, because there won't be enough people for the workforce there. The other issue that NAM suggests is there's an aging workforce, as we know, boomers, as we're getting older, and some of that really technical knowledge, like we talk about being in the weeds because we're in tech and SaaS, and that's just what happens. But as those guys and girls age out and don't have that knowledge base anymore, how are we really serving and teaching the younger generation to take over what our businesses need and what that can look like? And is it right for us to not have automation and AI in there when this is kind of the world that we're growing up in? Or is this something that we can serve for our incoming workforce? I would also just here say we want our workplace people who work for us to feel like they're contributing and having a meaningful job in making sure that the business is better. And if they feel like they can contribute with, okay, I understand this automation better than the person leaving, and then can add to that so that your business is more optimized, saves time, saves money, that's really who you want to hire instead of just a warm body in there. The second kind of challenge, as we've looked in the next 4 years, specifically here where we are in the States, is tariffs and some economic uncertainty and kind of where we are in that climate. We are in this, we need to plan for 2025. What does that mean? Are we going to have some incoming costs for exports and imports? Do we know what the raw materials are going to cost coming into your manufacturer, which then affects the pricing for your distribution business? I'm sure you're planning budgets and all of those things. If prices increase, what does that look like? If you can get less of things, all of us remember the shortages from 2020. What did you learn then that we can use for automation to make simpler in the coming years? And then lastly, and you'll hear more of this as we go through this, but digital transformation, really transforming and looking at your landscape and figuring out if there's a different way that your business can look to be able to be more optimized. This AI isn't new. It's not going away. ChatGPT isn't going to like be put back in the closet. More and more tools. I think I get an email called Ben's Bites, and I think I get 100 new apps a day from his newsletter that are using AI. Like this is just going to be exponential. How can we, as technology and inside the distribution business, use that for good? We need to be able to keep up with the expectations of business. And I believe that transforming everything into kind of the digital age and using AI is how we're going to do that. So that's just kind of the overarching of challenges and all these hardships. And now hopefully the next handful of minutes, we will give you some solutions to those. Anything guys in there? That was just kind of a overview.
No, I think that says it well, Nicole.
Yeah, I think it says it.
These are challenges that, for us, for Web Presented, 100% of our customers are distributors, everywhere from huge multi-billion-dollar organizations down to small mom and pop kind of type sizes. I think it's fair to say that each one of them is concerned about all three of these issues to some degree or another.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even beyond that, right? It's not just our customers, it's our customers' customers. When we talk about labor shortages and the average age, right? Baby boomers, it's going to affect our customers also, right? So not just the manufacturing distribution, but then also the end users, those customers are all going to change. And we need to look at tools to, one, acquire better talent, retain better talent, but then also, so I had a conversation not long ago, and they had acquired, it was a distribution company, they acquired another company, right? And they're walking around the place, and there was a guy named Ben, and Ben had this little booklet. Every time they asked about how something was done, Ben flipped it open to whatever page and read it. And the person I talked to said, when we bought this company, do we get Ben's book? Right? Because when Ben retires, what are we going to do? And that's where, when we're talking about digital transformation, we need to think about that, right? What can we automate? What can we make easy that we're not counting on somebody written down in a booklet, right? Thinking that's what's going to carry us on next generation. It just isn't. We got to look at those changes.
Yeah. And
well, I'll say one other thing. Sorry, Nicole. About labor shortages in particular. I was actually at a customer of ours down in Texas just a little over a month ago, and talking to the owner of this distribution company. They sell janitorial supplies, so very distribution itself is not particularly glamorous industry. Selling janitorial supplies, while it's a fantastic business and it's doing great, and there's intricacies that are truly interesting, it's not the glamorous kind of thing that somebody straight out of college, hotshot graduate is going to necessarily gravitate towards. So I think a lot of distributors are seeing those labor shortages amplified just because of the nature of the distribution industry, not drawing a whole lot of attention or kind of being sexy.
Yeah, and that's the expectation, is that we have to manage with less, do more with less. So I need more staffing, and typically younger, but I think they'll get excited when they see, I always say, like, I can get Amazon here on my phone and I can order something immediately. I can get dinner. That's the person that we want on staff in the warehouse. And they're going to look at that warehouse differently than someone who's like, I've never used DoorDash. I don't understand how to do that. Or I'll just go to Walgreens to get my medication where I'm like, I'm sick, I'm just going to order it online. That's what AI and automation will do. So kind of as an attraction marketing for our distributor companies is, you want that mindset. You want a new person to be like, okay, well, it's not a sexy job opportunity necessarily, but I'm really into AI, or I'm really good at ops. How can I make this better? And for us as companies, that's what we want. That's what we want. We want something easy and efficient and some breathable space that you can pass on Bob's notebook to the younger generation there. So, okay, so we have all these challenges. How can we address this through automation? So this next slide is just a really basic overview about remaining competitive. Again, we've said you have to do more with fewer resources, and automation offers a powerful way to fill workforce gaps, to boost efficiency, and reduce reliance on manual tasks. However, as we've already heard, not all distributors are on the same page when it comes to automation. Some are like terrified of it. It's too much, it's too expensive, I don't understand it. As an anecdote, I just flew in today to the office, and even in a tech office, we had some issues just here that took 3 staff members to just figure out how we could get one computer to work. That's a very real fear in some of our small businesses or businesses that are like just really resistant to getting into that automation. That may be where you are at or have been. Then we have kind of the intermediate. They've done a little bit, like they have a little bit of understanding. They know that they're not going to run to the bank every week to deposit checks, or when there's coupons and things on mass orders, they kind of have a process for that. They may even have some automated ordering systems. If somebody calls into the desk, they still have some automation in the warehouse. They sort of have a better understanding. They definitely have an ERP. I don't know that they'd have a CRM, right, James? I'm not sure that they'd have a CRM on intermediate, but they have a better understanding. But they are really looking for, okay, I know that I need to optimize this. This is lacking here. It's costing me money here. My laborers are taking days off here. How can I really maximize that? And then at the highest level for full automation, some distributors are using predictive analysis. They're using AI tools. We laugh about ChatGPT, but obviously we know that there's way more AI and machine learning than just the open AI products. They need to forecast their demands. We're talking about economic uncertainties and kind of import, export, what's going to come in the next several years. And then when they have all those inefficiencies or shortages in labor and shortages in what's coming into the warehouse, full automation is telling them, this is the data, this is where your gaps are, this is where your roadblocks are in your system, and then this is how we move forward. So maybe we can do this. Bill, can you talk about some basic automation, or like that first entry level, kind of getting over the fear, maybe invoice payments, maybe something that distributors can use that are just right there and wanting to start?
Well, I would say probably from our audience here, right? The most common theme as far as basic, right, is they went and installed an ERP, right? In order to do a lot of these basic automations, right? To send out invoices, inventory management, ordering, all time, basically tying their company. So they started out, right, with adding an ERP so that it went across the entire company. But the next step, right, is to plan out, right? So what are we doing manually in the ERP, and how can we automate it? So that's really the basics, is putting that ERP in place, getting everybody trained on it, right? Getting everything moved to that, to be that point of truth, right? That one point of truth, but then look at what the future is.
For sure. And then James, you had mentioned that you had gone to Texas. Do you have any customers or represented tools that you're seeing like full implementation of AI? Like they've got automation, kind of what that would look like?
Sure, yeah. I mean, obviously, we're very focused on sales enablement at Web Presented. So I can give you some examples of how distributors are using AI within their sales teams for sure, firsthand, but also outside of that. So, for example, in sales, we're seeing ChatGPT or generative AI build email content or even marketing content, or if not build it completely, act as like a thought starter. So, if you're writing a blog or writing a marketing piece, they'll use ChatGPT to just come up with ideas, headlines, do some copy, content writing, and then tweak it and massage it from there. Outside of just generating images or text with OpenAI or ChatGPT, we've seen a lot of predictive AI, so to help sellers understand hidden data trends that they might not otherwise see. So historically, we sort of make fun of the old-fashioned way of selling, where it's Monday, I'll go east. It's Tuesday, I'll go south. It's Wednesday, I'll go west, etc. To start using AI to analyze data to understand which customers are the high-value customers, which interactions and activities would be most, get your biggest bang for your buck, if you like, on doing those activities, and really getting a bit more intelligent around understanding how to get the most out of the sales activity. And incidentally, salespeople, particularly outside salespeople, are distributors' number one cost center. So it's the most amount of money they're going to spend is on their outside sales team. So obviously using that expensive resource productively and efficiently is extremely important. Examples of AI there are, like I said, understanding ahead of time when a customer is going to be due to reorder a product and positioning it in front of them right at the right time and through the right medium. Easily being able to understand gaps or stoppages in selling, so to identify cross-sell and upsell opportunities. Simple example is, let's say you've got a sandwich shop and they're buying a lot of bread from us, they're buying a lot of peanut butter from us, but they're not buying any jelly from us. So being able to understand, using your broad base of customer data, AI can start finding those gaps or those white spaces within the customer base in order to be able to promote certain items or give thought starters to your sales team to be able to come up with those kinds of ideas and drive conversations towards increased revenues. Outside of the sales realm, of course, there's a lot of AI being thrown at pricing right now. So understanding what the optimal pricing is for products to make sure that you have not only maximize profitability, but also to ensure that it's you can cope with the demand for products and you don't have like a small set of customers buying you out entirely of those particular items or having availability around. We're also seeing a lot of AI come in the logistical piece of warehouse. So not only robots picking, automated picking machines, but the ability to strategically lay out warehouse bins so that you have the optimal routes within the warehouse to make that picking process more streamlined. So there's a whole lot of automation we're seeing across the board, and I know I've just kind of scattergun a whole bunch of them, but those are some of the ideas we're seeing.
That's what this is for, sharing ideas to see where, if you're sitting here listening, where are you in your automation journey? Like, what does this fit for where I currently am? And then as always, like, where do I want to be? And are you keeping up? And I think that's just seeing anecdotes and listening to stories about what other companies are doing is really helpful, that you can kind of place yourself in where in the automation journey you are and where you can go. So the next slide is kind of the beef of, please, again, ask questions here as we're going forward. So we talked about the challenges. We have several little, anecdotes on these are what it could look like, but really as the solution here. So Bill, I'm going to ask you to cover this first one. I know here at Aldrich, with e-commerce and portals, some of that workforce challenge is covered because we have, let's just say her name is Susie and she's in the back office and she's, taking in checks and taking in orders and, maybe at the extreme putting stamps on things and taking things to the bank, and just kind of lots of little manual tasks. At the same time, in that workforce, she's not happy doing that because it doesn't require her brain. So she doesn't feel like she's giving anything to the business. Maybe in her job, she's not super satisfied. Are there things that we can do to have her be more useful? For sure. So we can take off some of these manual tasks so she can spend some time like actually looking around and saying, okay, when you talk about using AI for pricing, this could really fit into this database, or I'm still struggling with these coupons, or how that would look. I mean, I know that kind of the understanding is that e-commerce is full automation for ordering, but we don't find that distributors are using e-commerce for 90% of their orders. E-commerce is an important part. It's a good visual part. They need a marketing site. It's just a way for us to do more with less. It is not, when we're talking about like full automation, no one is talking about distributors going to an e-commerce site that's doing 95% sales. So Bill, can you speak a little bit more on like how those two things would maybe help with workforce challenges in those regards?
Well, yeah, I mean, so you're right. So the next generation is coming up. They have a different view, right, of what baby boomers think their job should be. And they need some, I don't think meat and potatoes is the right thing, but they need something that is very strong to them, that is not doing manual tasks where they don't think they're making a difference, right? They're looking for a place they can come and make a difference and not be focused on day-to-day stuff. So imagine, right? James used web presented, right? He found something he needed to talk to Nicole about, right? AI came back and said, and Nicole puts in order, right? And goes ahead and puts in an order. Well, from there, right, we pack it, ship it, invoice it. Well, does Susie really want to then chase Nicole down in order to get a pay that, right? And the owner of the ownership, right? They want to see as much cash in the bank as quick as possible. So when you can look at an automation that allows, once that order gets put in as packed, shipped, and invoiced, then an automatic email goes out to them, right? With a little button that the customer, Nicole, can now click it and pay that invoice instantly, either through a credit card or through an ACH. And then that's more cash into the bank. So really using all these tools, right? Let's map out that whole customer journey, right? And how we start at the beginning and what can we use to automate so that our workforce isn't dependent on a bunch of people doing manual tasks. Free them up to be creative and do the other things they want to do that makes sense for them, but it is a benefit to our businesses, right? That's what we want to see. That's what we have to do with the next generation is think about, lay out that roadmap. What is it that makes a difference in what they do and frees them up to do other things? Because we don't have an endless amount of people to employ. And and I know you put that slide up about in manufacturing, and I've sat in many meetings, right, with economists. We have a real labor shortage that's coming. We think we have a shortage now. It's not what we're going to see in 5 years, 10 years. It's going to be even worse, that we're looking for workforce. So how do we attract the right people? But then also, how do we give them tools that makes their job fulfilling, but also frees them up to do creative stuff also?
Yeah, for sure. Anything on that, James, for
No, I couldn't agree more with Bill. It's finding, making the current workforce be more efficient, more effective, and helping people with technology. I think it's also interesting. You put on that initial slide about how the average age now I think is 44, which coincidentally is basically born in 1980, which marks the start of the information age. So in other words, now on average, if you take a median, if you like, of 44, probably around just over, and it's only going to get more and more, 50% of the workforce is now a digital native. So people that have grown up around technology all their lives, they're familiar with it, and not only familiar with it and able to adapt quickly, but also expect it as part of their lives. It's funny, as a CRM company, we sometimes go into organizations and there's a real difference, two different mindsets. Some companies, particularly the kind of old guard, are like, I don't want a CRM system that keeps track of my every move, and I don't want Big Brother breathing down my neck. So there's that sort of innate kind of fear or suspicion around somebody invading their privacy or their security, or their confidentiality, versus the people that have grown up in technology will come and say, where's my CRM? Day one, I'm a salesperson. Where's my CRM? Where's my insights? They don't care so much about security and protection of their privacy. It's more about I value access to data more than I value my privacy. So get me access to those tools, and we're seeing a huge shift in that thinking.
And maybe we can just skip to the third area here, because that's a great segue into, I would agree that one of the foundations that we find is it's a fear. So people who are really afraid of that privacy, as opposed to, I know that my privacy is not actually I grew up in the digital age. I know that it's not actually my privacy. What can those insights do to then further what I have? I mean, we say that tongue in cheek. We absolutely need to have privacy and some passwords in place. But so speaking on if automation can boost the customer experience, and not just obviously us, you, I, and Bill, our customers would be you guys as distributors, but also their customer experience. So if I'm coming in, again, going with my phone, and I'm experiencing at the click of a button, I can see my insights, I can place orders, I can make a doctor's appointment in my hand. When I'm going to a job in a warehouse or in an office controlling the warehouse, I also have some experiences that I expect. And then maybe what automation can do for there, or maybe some AI experiences that can kind of boost what that experience is for people. Okay, and then driving digital transformation. So this is a hot topic. I think this will continue to be a hot topic as, I don't know, since 1980, really? That feels like beating ourselves here. Digital transformation when we had dial-up internet, but implementing tools to transform the business. And that doesn't mean that you're going to look at your business today and it'd be completely different tomorrow. It doesn't mean that what you know now is going to be different in a year. But I think this is important too. We talked about this last week, but the discussion on tariffs and imports and economic uncertainty. We don't know what it's going to look like in 3 months. We don't know what it's going to look like in 3 years. No one knew how it would affect our customers and distribution at 2020. What kind of things do you think we can implement that would help that discussion on kind of the uncertainty here? So we expect a transformation, but how do we judge, or what kind of tools can we use so that we know we have a transformation, but we're not basing it on some woo-woo, oh, I know there's uncertainty coming. Make sense?
Yeah, I think it starts off with digitizing data and understanding that data is an asset, not just a record of historical transactions. So once that mindset takes place, every transaction that takes place is an asset that's going to drive future decision making, make us stronger and more knowledgeable, more powerful effectively in the future. Several things happen. First of all, companies realize that the importance of implementing software and using software to enforce processes and make sure that there's alignment and consistency in how data is captured. But also it's really important as companies scale to realize that digital transformation is critical in scaling. I think we all know that you can get by as you're very small with lack of process and people just using intuition and tacit knowledge up here. But as you add people, as you add customers, as you grow, it's super important to have consistency in processes, and that's all enabled by the systems that you're talking about here: ERP integrations, PIM systems, e-commerce platforms, CRM platforms are going to enable that growth, and also enable companies to be able to ride through uncertain times. And obviously, with the political environment, tariffs are a big topic that no one quite knows how that's going to impact supply and demand, etc., from overseas manufacturers. We've recently seen how digital transformation has helped people get through COVID. We have just, if you don't mind me sharing a little anecdote here, we had some of our customers are in the graphics screen printing industry. So you can imagine when COVID hit, screen printers and t-shirt manufacturers really their business went from up here to down here almost overnight because people weren't getting together. There were no sports teams, no concerts, no groups get together, no birthday parties, etc. So this printing industry just suddenly hit a flat line. And the customers of ours were presented that used a tool that had customer data at their fingertips, were able to quickly assess the situation and mine their data to understand which customers have equipment that needs serviced right now. And they completely pivoted their business to, during COVID, go around their customers, call on their customers, understand the equipment that needed replaced or repaired, and start driving that service business instead of the sales business. So it's kind of one of those foundational pieces that enables companies to ride any waves or economic certainties going forward. And I thought that was a really great example of how digital transformation put them in such a great position to be able to pivot quickly versus folks who don't have a digital backbone to rely on.
Yeah. And Bill, kind of pivoting there, I have written here ERP and e-commerce, but this is one of those, when we talk about digital transformations, our customers have ERPs. What is the jump start to getting started with the website? Like, what is kind of the driving? They want to transform what? They finally pull the trigger. We've seen what an ERP can do in that mid-level automation. Kind of tie that into e-commerce for me.
Right. And I think it starts before that even. I think, and not just e-commerce, right? Any type of digital transformation that you have going on in your business. I think one of the biggest challenges actually is we all think it's an IT project, right? Because it's the IT guy that understands the ERP. He's the one that gets it, right? That team gets it. But it's beyond that, right? Whenever someone's going to do a CRM, I'm sure James is going to tell you got to get salespeople involved in order to actually make it work. We can all connect it. IT can connect it. But you have to look at your digital transformation, be a CRM, e-commerce, and say, who are the people that are going to be involved, right? And get them involved in the project, understanding the project, and why, the why. That's the biggest thing. Is sometimes, especially the baby boomer generation, they need to know why we're going to do something, right? Because you are changing. Someone moved their cheese and they don't understand why the cheese has been moved, right? We've got to get all those people involved. So when we take e-commerce, we look at it and think, right, so it's not just the IT department, right? The sales team, the marketing team, um, accounts receivable, the different people that are going to be touched by it, and how do we get them involved into the project so that it's not just an implementation and we're done? How do we have a long term, right? And that they thrive well beyond when they chose what CRM or what e-commerce that they're going to put into play.
Yeah, and obviously we have our favorites here, but it is important that you know what tools that you're going to use and maybe even in what order, if you're looking at years to come, what your automation is going to look like. There are probably some logical steps of what you need for your business now, as opposed to, which James will talk about here on the next slide, about robots. Like that's a little far of a stretch than to just like get an ERP and then I'll have robots. There's a little bit more tools in between there, right? Okay, so this next one, if you're listening still, thank you for being on. I hope you've had a good time. We have certainly enjoyed the last half an hour. What could you accomplish in your business if your people and your business and your in-force had tools to be more productive? And I've asked both of them to kind of looking at this real world examples. We can talk about, the millennial ordering off my phone all we want. We can talk about Susie Q not wanting to do manual tasks, but I really wanted to know what efficiencies and tasks and all of these automations, what it actually looks like for our customers. If you could come up with maybe some real world examples. I know we've kind of done them throughout the webinar, which has been great, but I did ask, so it doesn't matter to me who shares first, but I would love to hear kind of what that actually looks like really meat to the bones, what that actually looks like.
Well, I'll let James go first because he talks more elegantly than I do.
Cricket. It's the cricket versus cricket.
Yeah. So some real world examples, particularly automation. So let's start with something very simple. and it's called SFA, Salesforce Automation. A company has sellers that typically use, the old guard use pen and paper to log their calls with their customers. And I've been doing it this way for years. It's been working great. I'm a sales rep. My accounts are doing fine. Why change? And by implementing a very basic CRM and tracking opportunities within a CRM platform is really the first step in embracing digital transformation in terms of the sales enablement. It's certainly difficult to get kind of change effectuated, particularly among sellers. But the benefits we've seen are just absolutely staggering. Not only visibility into what the overall pipeline looks like, which then helps with forecasting and demand generation, but also salespeople being able to remember not only follow-ups, tasks, but also remember historical activity pertaining to a single opportunity. So tracking opportunities in a CRM platform, automatically logging emails, based on integrations with Outlook, based on integrations with your phone to be able to capture text messages, Teams or Zoom, all of those kinds of integrations, bringing it into one single place so that it's easily searchable, so that it comes back at your fingertips, and enables salespeople not to have to store all this either on pen and paper or in their mind. Not only makes it easier and quicker for people to remember, things don't fall through the gaps, and it also provides that continuity. If one person leaves the organization, someone else picks it up, helps that you've got all that data there on hand. So that's a really easy, basic way of automation that helps with that scalability. And really, we're encouraging distributors, if they're not using some sort of CRM or Salesforce automation tool, that's a great starting point.
And if we were to dream the biggest dream fully, what do you see a fully automated distribution center looking like?
Great.
We were to walk in. I think on this slide there's a little robot for you there. What does that look like end to end?
Okay, let's see, end to end. So obviously walk in a nice building, a lot of energy efficiency is big now. So there's lights that turn on when you walk in to the place, designed to be efficient and economical. Within the warehouse itself, obviously well laid out in terms of efficiency of being able to pick and pack items that are grouped together. We're seeing a lot of very tall stacks now because automation allows and mechanics allow to be able to stack items extremely high, and that saves on square footage and footprint. Like you said, robots, the ability to have automated pickers and packers. We've seeing a big increase in automated packing machines coming in for high volume products, and that they work 24/7, saves a lot of, cuts down a lot of errors, efficiencies. And also, use of RFID to be able to track products that go in and out the door, the ability to make sure that, again, quality, perfect order is a big important thing here. That it's on time, but it's accurate, and it's in full. All of those kinds of things are using automation to make sure they're appropriate, and then they tie into the digital kind of banks of the business. So any transaction that comes in through the ERP, it's automated in the warehouse, and it's available for reporting purposes, for AI purposes immediately. So the sellers have that information on their phones. Customers are clued in because they're connected via an e-commerce portal, or they're connected with their account manager. So all of these systems working harmoniously, it really is, that's where we have to be.
Yeah. I mean, perfect. Sounds like a dream. We're working there, right? Okay.
Sorry, Nicole, I forgot to say one thing. There's actually a company that we met with very recently that are very leading edge of automation technology within their warehouse, and this is a new concept to me, but the usage of smart pallets within their warehouse. So we've got now a customer that uses these, you think of a wooden pallet as being probably one of the most dumb and basic features of distribution and core feature of distribution. Now, the ability to have reusable pallets that have RFIDs in them, they're lightweight, they can be reused. Again, efficiencies at every corner to be able to chip away at your cost and expenditure and help to keep that profitability, because we all know that those margins are getting finer and finer.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Bill. Some real world examples, how you see automation. I was actually just thinking when you were talking about the full gamut, you immediately went to like these beautiful stacks in the warehouse and the pickers for robots. And I'm like, yeah, but how did they get the order? Well, they get the
Well,
order
yeah,
because someone went online and was like, well, how did they, I'm the marketer, right? I'm like, how did they find that I wanted that pallet that was especially on the RFID? Anyway, it just makes my brain just the rat race of how much you can backtrace what is really automated and what AI could really this is how many orders that go through. I need to make sure that I can pay for them at a lower price point right now, or when they do go lower, whatever, for the incoming price changes. And I can stack them really high because of automation and what that looks like for my e-commerce side. Anyway, I was geeking out a little bit as you were speaking. So sorry, Bill, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, that's quite all right. So I could give you a lot of success stories, right? And to kind of preface first, probably 50% of distributors don't even have e-commerce, right? They don't have any type of digital transformation as far as to take in orders that actually integrate back into the ERP. But one specific customer comes to mind where we sat down and we talked to the leadership team and we kind of looked at where they are, right, and where they wanted to be, where they wanted to go. And I think that's the first step, right, is to look at and say, address it. Here's where we are, right? These are our strengths, but here's our weaknesses, and this is where we want to end up. And they had a great WordPress site, right? They'd spent a lot of money to have someone build out this great WordPress site, and then they put some items on there, and customers could place an order. But then the orders went nowhere, right? Because it wasn't connected to the ERP, right? It was a great marketing firm, and I always love the term, well, we're working with somebody local. Well, that usually is a telling sign, right? It's not someone that is an ERP knowledge that understands what your business is, right? They also understood they built a website for your local coffee place that you went and got coffee before you came to work. Not the same thing. So we sat down and we looked at, and the first biggest opportunity was, well, we're not going to scrap that, right? You invested tens of thousands of dollars into this marketing firm to build you this. So let's build a portal to start, right? So a customer can come on, find an order, find their pricing, find if you have something in stock. And we looked at that and said, that's step one, right? That's where we're going to go. And we built that out. Step two was then the AR team's like, but we have customers that want to pay online. Well, we're not at that point, right? We're not at full e-commerce, but how can they pay an invoice, right? So all our accounts, how can we do that? And then how can we automate letting them know to pay? So we just added that on for them. And then here we are today now going into step three, and we're building an e-commerce. So they've started that digital transformation with their customers, have them coming online, right, to be able to find things, see what the price is, find an invoice, pay an invoice. And now we're building out their e-commerce, and they're going to go live in the next few weeks and replace that dated WordPress site, right? As pretty and as much money as they spent, it wasn't the right tool for the job, right? It was a great tool that, like I said, many other businesses are using, but it's not something specific to distribution, not something specific to B2B e-commerce, and not somebody that really was an expert with their ERP. So that's kind of the success story, one of many that I could tell you.
Yeah, thanks. That's so great when businesses do well. Okay, well, to summarize the last half an hour or so, 45 minutes, thanks for staying on. We've had fun. Automation just isn't a tool. It's a way for you to have your colleagues happy, C-suite happy, you have an enjoyable job, and as you're looking towards some workforce challenges that we know are coming, we know that are coming, what you can do to facilitate navigating those challenges without feeling like you're blindsided. That AI systems, like James said with the CRM and pulling data, it's so interesting that you can put that in there and it will tell you what your insights are instead of somebody sitting behind the scenes well, I'm going to go west and I'm going to go east today. Well, you really should go west for 3 days because that's where your best customers are and they're buying in less than 30 days or whatever the parameters are. How much AI and those data-driven decisions can affect strategy as you're going into less workforce. So maybe you can have one less salesperson because you have really looked at your insights and can just narrow things down to a territory. And then finally, just assessing where you are. If you're in step 1, if you're in step 2, if you are fully robotic arms, everything's coming in through e-commerce and you're just sitting back eating bonbons because everything is like, hunky dory. We want to come to that distribution center. So if you'll just send us an email when we're done, we are going to take a visit there. But in an ideal world, how can we get there? And what steps do you need to take? And then what tools you need to use in what order? That seems really complicated. It shouldn't have been to get there for your automation. So I hope that in the last few minutes, you've really looked at like where your business is, what that could look like, what it should look like, maybe not what could, but like I need to keep up with the times, but then how can you stay ahead so that you have competitive advantage, that you have some thought process going into economic uncertainty, and that you have a plan for when the workforce, us 44-year-olds, decide to retire early, right, James? Bill and I will never retire. All right. If you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat. I haven't seen any pop through, which is totally okay. I feel like we've had great conversation. But if you have questions specifically about the tools or about Aldrich and Web Presented, we've put James and Bill's emails here. Obviously, you can just go to either of our websites and contact. We have great teams. We work really well together as a BU, and we call those cross BUs here under Coordinates. And we're just really grateful, James, for your time today. And then, as always, Bill, I always have a great time when we sit and talk. We sit and talk shop on these webinars. So see if anything else pops through.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't see any questions in chat or in the questions and answers.
Yep.
I don't, is there one takeaway that you'd like people to walk away and remember after seeing this webinar that they should take back?
I think in my mind, it's, overwhelming when you paint this futuristic vision and it's way too easy to say, oh, we're not like that. We're old school. But it also understand that it's, you only get there by doing one step at a time. So not to be overwhelmed by this kind of futuristic state that's never going to happen, but realize it's really just one decision at a time. And before you know it, if you keep moving in that direction, any distributors can be really at the forefront of automation.
Yeah, and I'd say there is no pass fail here, right? You are where you are. It is a matter of assessing that and then seeing where you can go and then how you can get there. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah. Yeah, only failure is lack of action, right? All right. Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Again, I had a good time. Had a good time prepping for this, and it was nice to see your faces today. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And again, if you're listening, we appreciate you. And just reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thanks much. See you.